Following that roster-wide victory, I am so happy to be here with top laner Rattel. This is the second day of the Horizon Cup, but it's your first time playing. What has it been like getting to watch the teams yesterday and now take to the stage for the first time?
오늘 호라이즌컵 2일차신데 그래도 라테 선수에게는 어쨌든 첫 매치셨잖아요. 어저께 먼저 플레이한 팀들 보시고 어떤 생각하셨나요?
스크림 때 더 잘했었는데 적팀이 근데 대회에 오니까 못해서 좀 아쉬웠어요.
So the teams that played yesterday were much better in scrim games. So I was a little sad that they weren't playing as well as they could have played.
Elaborating on that, looking at your opponents in this matchup, a lot of them see them as favorites. Are they one of the teams that you feel is underperforming compared to their scrims?
그러면은 호라이즌컵 오시면서 가장 견제됐던 팀들이 그 중에 하나였나요?
네, 아무래도 SBTC가 잘하기로 유명해가지고 견제되는 팀이었어요.
So I was aware that SBTC was a very strong team. So I was afraid of them coming into the match, but they were unfortunately one of the teams that I mentioned.
And you were playing very strong today, obviously in the regular season being a focal point for your team. I think you had 72% kill participation. How do you feel that you performed today compared to your performance throughout the season?
라테 선수는 뭐 지역 대회에서도 에이스로 유명하셨고 72%킬 관여율도 보이셨다고 알고 있는데 오늘 본인의 성적은 어떻게 만족하시나요?
잘하긴 했는데 긴장을 너무 해가지고 제 100%는 안 나온 것 같아요.
I think I played well, but I got a little bit nervous, so it definitely wasn't 100% of what I could have done.
Well, I didn't really feel the nerves at all looking at the performance. Your team has been so good with the fundamentals throughout the year. How much does that preparation help you keep that level head here on the international stage?
롤스터 Y는 뭔가 기본기가 되게 탄탄한 팀 같은데 그런 기본기를 다지는 경험들이 어떻게 도움이 되셨나요?
코치님들하고 감독님하고 팀원들이 다 같이 노력을 하고 막 해가지고 이렇게 된 것 같아요.
So our coaching staff and my teammates really worked together to build on those fundamentals that you mentioned. So I think that really led to a good result today.
And you'll be leaning on those more further on in the competition. Based on the performances you've seen so far, who do you think are the top teams now then compared to who you thought coming into the tournament?
그러면 호라이즌컵 전에 굉장히 강하다고 생각하셨던 상대팀하고 어제 매치들 보시면서 느꼈던 점을 모두 통틀어서 지금은 가장 두려운 상대가 어디라고 생각하시나요?
중구팀 두 팀이 둘 다 두려운 DKG가 제일 두려운 것 같아요.
So the two Chinese teams are both formidable, but especially DKG.
Good call-outs there. Thank you so much for stopping by for the interview. And what wonderful play that you had today. Back to the rest of the show.
Thank you very much. Great to hear from Rattel. But we're turning to match 2 where TSM are facing DKG, who have adapted to the double Rift Herald meta seemingly better than any other team, and Huiba sounds very confident.
有点小紧张，就有一种我感觉有种就是那种对胜利的渴望，有一股荣誉感，想为中国赛区拿个冠军吧。就我感觉比预想中的难了一点吧，因为我们之前看了他的比赛，我们预期会打得更简单一点。
Huiba, he's going for it! Oh, Huiba, what a beast, man!
因为就整个队伍70%的局吧都是围着我来打的，我觉得我占据了上风。我觉得他们没有 SE 厉害，我觉得我们应该能很简单的拿下他们。
So, Scoundrel, what do you think?
Honestly, Huiba might be my standout MVP of the tournament so far. The guy has... Rattel definitely made a case in that last series, don't get me wrong. But I think Huiba from yesterday stepped up. He was a huge carry. We had a lot of expectations for him, and he definitely knocked them out the park. He's looking like an excellent jungler, maybe crowning himself best jungler in the world by the end of the tournament done.
Yeah, but they've got a tough test against TSM here, TJ.
Yeah, TSM obviously aren't coming into this tournament as favorites. They've got a lot to prove. But they had a good start yesterday, and I think they demonstrated some versatility. Not only that teamfight heavy style we know and love from the LATAM regions, but also adding some really organized macro play, finding isolated picks in the side lane, bullying Chuck, the TSM top laner. That sort of thing is the path to victory and competing against better teams.
Do you have any tweets for us here about TSM
No,
being
I'm
better?
staying off Twitter. I'm never tweeting anything again. It's all going wrong.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure here before we hopped on into some of those things. Now, when we talked about that Tribe TSM series, TSM fell down in that first game, but then were able to battle back. We saw their evolution because we've identified them as a great team fighting team. But then what was the way that they came back with those picks?
Yeah, so the big thing with TSM is that they are very good at those team fights, but they've been historically kind of bad at finding them, kind of bad at forcing into those 5v5s. And what we saw them get very good at over the course of that last series was finding isolated top lane players, forcing fights there, but also using global mobility on things like Pantheon and Twisted Fate to grab players who overstayed their welcome and start fights off of CC, force entire rotations from their opponent's Tribe Gaming. And that's the sort of macro control, kind of command of the enemy team that lets you leverage good team fighting. And I think that's going to, if it continues, allow TSM to kind of punch above their weight class because they are genuinely very good at team fighting.
Right. And so when we compare these two together here, Scoundrel, you've said one of the best teams when it comes to split pushing. How do we see TT not getting sucked into this type of style, or DKG gets sucked into this type of team fighty style against TSM?
Well, like I said, I think at the start of the day, we mentioned DKG are one of the few teams that have actually activated a split push win condition and fulfilled it. And I think you can very clearly see that they are good at pushing away from team fights, not getting involved in them if they don't have to. And that's what I really like about DKG. A lot of it was facilitated through Huiba, but I also think that the whole team has got their head on their shoulders about when they should and shouldn't fight. So with TSM being so good at team fighting, again, with DKG being able to play away from that as a win condition, I think they've got TSM's number. I don't want to set any false expectations. I do believe this is heavily DKG favored. But as TJ said, if TSM can punch above their weight class, if they can find those big fights, especially off the back of the picks like the Galio, there might be that thread of hope where TSM could potentially be competitive here. But DKG are just, they look a bit of a class apart right now, Digon.
All right, well, it looks like the teams are ready to get on to the Rift. So for all the action, let's send it on over to Big G and Omo. Guys, take it away.
They're not just back in the Rift, they're also back in Suntech Convention Center where they are playing in day number 2 of the Horizon Cup. Like I mentioned, I'm Brandon, this is Zomo. Let's take a look at how this one's going to play out because yesterday, I still remember this, you guys can't run away from this. They thought that TSM was going to lose handedly to Tribe Gaming. TSM showed us a different story this time around, Omo. Am I coping a little bit too hard?
Look, it's not even going to be close here. I think that what the analyst touched on, but I'm going to lean into a little bit more here, is that this is a horror of a mismatch for TSM. What are TSM good at doing, Brandon?
They are good at team fights.
There we go. TSM are good at team fighting. They want to 5v5 you, and a lot of that comes from carliTo. He's the man that I want to watch on the screens right now. His Rakan, to me, was particularly impressive. But the problem is DKG, like our analyst said, are just never going to team fight you. And with that in mind, DKG are amazing at team fighting too. I remember one particular team fight I saw against SBTC. They just did so well to completely shut Aquino out of the entire team fight. And he was playing Rakan as well. So carliTo, I don't think you're going to have an easy time finding these engages.
I want to raise 2 points for that. One, carliTo mentioned that he felt much more confident towards the end of his set against Tribe Gaming.
Of course he won!
Before he won, he started to feel a lot more confident, got rid of a lot of those stage nerves. The second point that I kind of want to raise is the fact that we just saw SBTC losing game against Roach. Oh boy. Does this mean that that matchup wasn't truly the case? Does it feel like DKG is a much more playable opponent for TSM?
So we'll do this quick since the draft is getting really spicy here. I think the main thing you have to keep in mind here is why does carliTo feel more confident as the series progresses? He's playing against Tribe Gaming. I think it's fine. He even swept them. He's playing against Darkwind now. It's a whole different ball game. And you just gave YK Fiora. I don't know what we're gonna say about this one here. We said split push. We said Huiba. Now YK is gonna be running the game from side lanes as well, very likely.
I love DKG's bans. They are very custom, tailored Yes. TSM, get rid of the Senna, get rid of that new Gallo as well.
Easy team fight options. We are not letting you falsify with that new lead. It's never going to snowball into us. And brilliant stuff. Wave clear from Varus, ability to make pickoffs when you need to. Other than that, what are we going to do? We're going to use Fiora in one lane, we're going to use Diana in the other, and we're going to side lane you until your Nexus breaks.
Unable to team fight. You can't team fight when your side lane's being broken open.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to make a
can,
decision.
but you just lose the game.
You just lose the game.
Yeah.
TSM, on the other hand, have identified the Riven Camille too big of an issue to deal with. Ziggs, of course, like we know at this point, he just kind of cheats the game, kind of breaks the game a little bit, changes the way it's going to be played. They're going to go for this Yasuo now.
Something that I think we need to touch on a little bit more before going to this Yasuo point. I do believe this is the first time, or at least second time, we're seeing Fiora. We will need the stats checked really quickly because this champion has been understandably permabanned away in this tournament. And I love the adaptation. You talk about how TSM, they want to force fights, they want to team fight. They're adapting away from it. They can still force fights, but now with Lee Sin, Yasuo, they're very able to make picks on the side. And Brandon, what does Lee Sin Renekton do?
Lee Sin Renekton stuns you and then point and click CC kills you to damage. But I want to give a nice point for our viewers back at home.
Oh my god, it's here!
Yeah, wait. All right. For all you people back at home, I know Omo, you know what this is. Garen, make a guess where it's supposed to go.
Garen is going? You have a Baron leaner. So we say Garen Jungle. That doesn't make sense. Oh, we set them up and we got baited.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never said anything.
So Emo, to put it in context, in their regional finals, Emo played Garen support. We thought it was coming this time around, but they're just gonna be using Garen in the Baron lane, and once again, to nobody's surprise, Huiba is gonna be running the split pusher. He's gonna be piloting the Fiora into jungle. It's something we did see a little bit in the regional leagues, and I love it. I think it's perfect for Huiba. We saw him on Jax run a game, so why not on Fiora?
And Garen might have disappeared from the meta for a little while, but it's kind of just showing up again. We start to see its presence, especially against champions like the Renekton, who want those quick, short, bursty trades. You're able to deal quite effectively against them, and with the fact that you need a tank to fill in that position, Garen does that perfectly.
So in the draft, DKG, they asked themselves, what does Renekton decent do? They point and click stun, they one-shot it, they chain the CC. And Garen is amazing at dealing with that. Real tanky, has the W to negate most of the burst damage, and I think the draft coming into DKG, a lot of confidence, and I love that. They're saying, Huiba, we're gonna let you side lane, we're gonna let you side lane, and then you guys are gonna come collapse onto mid lane, we're gonna engage with Chains of Corruption, we're gonna use Solar Flare, you guys are gonna come one from the left, one from the right, and we are gonna run team fights.
And while we've talked so much about DKG, let's bring it back to TSM as a team that wants to look for these team fights. carliTo, the player that you were looking to watch out for. Now in this problem, how does this change things for you?
It's a good answer to the Leona. They want to play a safe bot lane, and what I do love is that they are taking the fight to Huiba. They draft an extremely strong top side, and they're saying, we are gonna fight fire with fire. We're not gonna back down from you in game one, and we are here to take on the challenge.
I really like the Ezreal pickup. I feel like Ezreal's a little bit underrated for its power. It is able to scale up pretty decently well. Varus does a different kind of, actually in a similar branch, but I feel like Ezreal has a little bit more flexibility in that sense.
Carries way harder than late. Are you ever gonna get there against Varus? That's the question you need to ask.
Well, that's what we had. That's what we thought against Tribe Gaming. So let's see how this
Tribe Gaming. This is KUN Gaming, Brandon. They both have gaming in their name, but that's as far as the similarities go. To me, I think coming to this after the performance we saw out of KUN yesterday, I feel confident in saying they might be the best team here this entire tournament. And TSM, I was impressed by their performance against Tribe yesterday, like you said, especially from carliTo. This time around, he does not have any initiative. What can his team pull off?
Yesterday, I said it was fun, explosive. It's WRE Esports. Today, I'm going to toss it. It's unpredictable. TSM going up against DKG, loading into the Rift.
I want to touch really quickly on the items from DKG. I have no real point with it. It just looks nice.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, and you have the Ruby Crystal on the Diana. I think that's a nice little touch as well. You don't want to let the Yasuo run over you in the early stages of the game. You just need to be stable and do your part. And I think that his build, his itemization speaks exactly towards that. And what did I say just now? I love teams where your players just play their role, and that's exactly what we're seeing from you here in game one.
Taking appropriate steps to make sure they have all their bases covered, making sure that they have vision in appropriate places. But we already start to see how these lanes are going to play out. The DKG matchup, a bit of a snooze fest, but also a little bit aggressive. The bot side, TSM, they're going to lose a little bit of pressure in the bottom end. but shouldn't be all too game.
Yeah, in the early stages of the game, this Garen Renekton matchup is actually a little bit spicy. Before the Garen gets the tanky items, before he beefs up a bit, he can actually do pretty well in the 1v1. They can actually butt head, and we can see Renekton come out on top. But until he gets the tanky items, that is. Once tanky items come through, it's just going to be a great wall for YK, and that lane becomes uninteractive. The main thing we need to focus on is what plays can we make for Tetis on the map. And it looks like it starts with the bot lane rotation.
They're trying to walk down, but that's good timing from Emo to make sure they have vision, so nothing's going to be collected in the bottom end.
I mean, to be fair, it is very telegraphed.
It was very telegraphed. Let's actually talk a little bit about this because I'm very curious how this is going to play out. Huiba now on this Fiora, he needs time to scale up, needs time to farm, grabbing the Skull Crab. Now Tetis was able to play on the other side, but it was a little bit more effort on their end.
Yeah, it was a little bit more effort, and I think that comes back down to the telegraphing of the play. TSM, they devote a lot of resources. They invest the mid-roam to make sure they get Scuttle Crab, and I think that speaks towards, you know, their caution as well. When you're playing against a team like DKG, you cannot afford to make a mistake. Give them an inch, they are going to take a mile. You have to cover your bases here, and I think that's definitely in the minds of TSM as well.
You mentioned earlier on that this Lee Sin pickup is something very much seen within these Southeast Asian teams. They love going for these aggressive pickups, these junglers that are able to impact the map early on. What is this kind of
we already
fit in
see
for
a
TSM?
difference. We already see a difference. If this was a Southeast Asian Lee Sin, if this was TF, his item right now is gonna be lethality. He's gonna
Maybe
be
Ghostblade, right?
Ghostblade, 100%. He's gonna try to one-shot you. But Tetis is going for a bit more of a bruiserish build, and I think that this Lee Sin actually plays two very, I think, instrumental roles here in the draft of TSM. You do two things. Number one, you set up your Yasuo. That's huge. You need to set up the Yasuo. We always talk about how
The better
Yasuo
vibe.
needs set up the better vibe. Everything is the better vibe. All right, but we'll get into that. Number two, this is something which people think less about. Everyone sees Lee Sin, you think flashy insect kick. One thing he can do this game is just completely mock the Diana. Every time she tries to come in, charge up and move forward, kick her out of the fight, get her out of here. And I think that that's really just so much flexibility from Tetis, basically. He can do anything he wants, and I like the Bruiser build to indicate that.
Really a lot more freedom to play the way they want to try and play it. Mike's just going to have to back away. A little bit of danger there, looking for a solo kill down the bottom side. Wind flashes away from the Glacial Fissure. No knock-up, no stun, but at least takes away some opportunity there. That's going to be the counter game coming in now. Nice kick from Tetis. Sets up for his jungler and his first blood from TSM.
Very, very impressive start to this game from TSM. I love what we're seeing. All right there, YK, take it down a notch. Garen, you're supposed to be a tank, but he flashes forward. The Martian Justice, Ignite, gets it all done by himself. Sacks a bit of creeps, but that's fine. I think the game will start the way this is playing out. Very impressive for TSM here. But looks like Dragon DKG.
4 minutes means the neutral objectives are now up. TSM get a nice window to pick up the kill in the mid lane, but as a result, they've lost a chance to fight for this Dragon. They're going to have to be content with this Rift Herald, but arguably, Rift Herald has been the more favorite objective.
It has, and I feel like, you know, DKG, they might still want to go for the fight, but we'll take a look at this replay. Two things get done very well here.
We don't have time for that because the fight continues. Yo's losing a lot of health very quickly. Once again, dies before the fight really kicks off.
YK just doing a bit of spinning. That's going to be all. I love what we saw there. We didn't quite catch the start of the fight, but given the positioning of the team fight, we can make a couple of assumptions. TSM, they swung away from the Dragon. They camped the topside river. Now, DKG, they assumed that the Rift Herald would start it off. But TSM, they were camping in the bush, and they caught the Diana. That just swung the fight completely around, secured them the Rift Herald, and that's going to be huge here. Because if Fiora gets a Rift Herald, you know what happens right then.
Yes, sure, definitely do.
Gets themselves a couple turrets.
Okay, there we go. That's the answer right there. TSM, on the other hand, are the ones to
Look
get
at
the
where fights then. They camped the bush. This is just so good for TSM. I love the start that we're seeing. I know that I kind of wrote them off, but they're proving me completely wrong here. Very good shot calling for that.
A lot of presence of mind to know what they want to try and go for at these specific points in time.
Yep.
And building into that, they've been able to get a couple of nice kills, especially on the targets that matter. Onto Mike, onto Tetis. These two guys are going to be the pure bulk of damage to kind of bridge them into that late game.
Well, for now, yeah, exactly. For now, Tetis is going to be instrumental with his build path. I think he's going to devolve into a kick bot pretty soon, but that's fine because you just need to buy time for your team. Pertroni, why? They are going to be your carries later, and here we go. Time's
DKG
ticking.
with a nice pickup on Sony. He's just going to try and make his way back on the turret towards the honey fruit, but gets taken down in time. In the mid lane, though, they trade back for win.
Yeah, and tempo is a pendulum. If you make a play on one lane, you have to sack something in the other lane.
Turtle as well. This is looking a little bit dicey.
Here, right?
YK might just get taken down. He comes in with the ultimate, but still falls, and a Rift Herald finds that first turret.
And the Rift Herald, we talk about why this is the most important objective on the map. Take away the Rift Herald, and DKG wins this play by a huge margin. But because of the Rift Herald, they might go for
That's not a kill. That's another kill in the mid lane. Surely,
Unless-
as Emo jumps in, Pertroni's the one that picks it up.
Huiba's coming in. They're really low right now.
You have to deal with this guy. Huiba's come in now. The bulk of the carry
win
on
this.
this man. Taking out a lot of the damage with the repost. Is the re-engage coming through from Mike, but they've taken him down. Raid boss is gone. He's too early in the game to be that threat.
And I can tell you, Huiba is frustrated right now because everyone that he tried to get on flashed away from him, healed away from him. And let's take a look at the actual play. This starts off, we talked about this pendulum, right? You have to sacrifice tempo somewhere. DKG, they don't want to give you an inch. They're going to come in, they're going to fight every inch of ground you want to take. We will pay for it in blood. And that's exactly what happens. They try to contest you at every turn, but they invest too many resources.
That's very graphical though.
On the graphic, I like to describe things in depth. You know, we'll go into the gore.
Oh, a little bit into the gore realm. Does it feel like TSM have embraced that for himself right now?
love
They
it.
woke up and they were ready to rumble.
I'm going to use a bit of an overused meme here, but I think it's very fitting. TSM woke up and they chose violence.
They chose violence.
And they're doing it also well. I think the TSM that we're seeing here today is an elevated form of the TSM we saw yesterday. And I don't know, I think that this TSM, look at this discipline, they know when to fight, they know when they can't fight. I think the calls from them have been very good, but that's so cheeky.
He's gonna get caught out though, barely misses out the
Oh
tornado, so he
my
won't get information of where
goodness.
they are. Right as the Dragon's about to spawn, so this is going to be a pretty critical team fight. They're looking for a trade back on EMO, but it's
can't
difficult.
die.
He's still very tanky. Damage coming through for Pertroni. But that's about it. They have to kind of recollect their efforts now.
Look at the Baron lane as well. YK managed to shove in the way, get a little bit of gold here. Keep in mind, TSM, they are winning the fight. They're getting the turrets. But DKG, they are winning by little increments. And this is why I said it's a horror of a mismatch with TSM. You want to take the fight, DKG will split push you to death.
carliTo, he's off by himself. He doesn't have anyone to back him up. He might just get taken down. Nice exhaust to keep Huiba pace, get caught out by the repost. Keeping alive, Sony flashes forward, comes in with the dominance, with the damage to take down. It's a trade back, but DKG will come ahead with one more kill.
Brilliant stuff. It was a fight on two fronts right there. You came
Pertroni
back.
dies as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what you picked up on. I hate his name. I'm just gonna come out and say it. It's so frustrating. It's not you, Brendan. You would never be able to make that play. But Diana found an amazing play on Pertroni in the back line. 1v2 them while his team was trying to save Huiba. And this right now, what we're seeing from DKG, it's death by 1,000 cuts. TSM, they are team fighting so well. They're finding the place at the right time. But DKG, they're just so smart. They know which fights they can take. They're just so good. They're saying, if you want to team fight us, you have to invest more resources. You with the back line as well. You waste no time. You instantly flash with the Yasuo, and that's just going to be a clean pickup.
I'm sorry, I don't think we can go into any more replays because every time we do it, TSM chooses to take a fight. DKG with the handshake and the glacial fissure, not going to find much impact. YK walks right past it.
Yeah.
And yet again, these two teams
Oh,
so
boy.
happy to team fight.
Oh boy, now Brandon, for our viewers at home, every time we see a Fiora, there's gonna be a bit of a ticking sound. You hear a clock just in the background go tick, 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 tick. And when the
Can you
Rift
just
Herald
keep
gets
doing
picking
that
up,
the entire game?
I could, but I'm just gonna get fired right after this guys, if that's the case. When the Rift Herald gets picked up, the timer goes a little bit faster. The clock starts ticking more incessantly. And Huiba, with this Rift Herald in his back pocket, he's free to do his thing. That's why TSM identified this. They say, we have to shut him down. We have to kill him.
You know what I absolutely love though? Sony is not afraid at all to take these fights against Huiba. He has that confidence that he can make plays happen. Tetis comes in, gets the initial catch off, gets the damage down, almost taking down Win, but he's bought enough time going into stasis. That's the power of the Hourglass. Full-on team fight in the mid lane. Mikey trying to do the best he can to hold on as TSM gets dismantled by Huiba in the back. The Rift Herald comes out alive as well. And it's just fight after fight going to DKG.
Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. Give me 30 minutes, I will break down that team fight. But the little things, it's all the little details from DKG. And I think we've seen this before. They're getting the Rift Herald. They're going all the way. They might go for the Nexus.
That's 5 more seconds on the death timers.
Just the inhibitor.
A little bit too much to try and push for the end there, but 10 minutes and 50 seconds. Did I see that right?
I don't know what to tell you here, Grant. This team is just so insanely good. And I think there's a reason I feel like DKG, I don't know the stats to back it up, but my eye test tells me, and this might be a bit of a biased thing as well, but I feel like DKG might be the best team here. It's all the little details, the stopwatch, the counter-engage position. The way Huiba plays this, picture perfect. He flashes in, gets the one-shot onto the backline, he drops the Rift Herald, the tank, the turret, and they keep the dive going. And it's just, I can't really cast this game anymore because I'm just gonna fanboy gush over DKG for the rest of it.
Well, surely DKG have been able to perform incredibly well against TSM, but I don't want to discount this team because they came out the gate swinging.
Look, TSM played extremely well. I think DKG are just on the next level.
They got first blood. They got a second kill once again onto Yo.
Yeah.
But despite their best efforts, DKG understand what they need to do. And they are playing into TSM strikes. They are taking team fights against the team fighting team, Omo.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, but, you know, Huiba, he's just gonna one-shot a Renekton, and I
just leave him to his devices. He's gonna do what he needs to do to get it done. Taking down yet another. It's Tetis the second to fall from TSM roster.
Look at the minimap. Look at Diana on the minimap.
They're looking pretty tanky, but Diana's walking in the wave right now. Yo's gonna be there to try and end things off. Pertroni doing the best he can to take down Win. The volleyball's gonna be there. Flashes out, gets to safety. Yo decides he wants a piece of the action, and TSM will crumble to the face of the edge.
Now, I thought Diana was running for the Nexus. I'm a bit let down that he didn't. He comes in, he says, I want a piece of the action. Gets the cleanup on the fight. What's there to say? Huiba comes in, he eviscerates Sonyy, and with that in mind, even though he drops, his job is done. The rest of DKG can come in, they clean it up. Amazing stuff here from this team. 13,000 gold at 13 minutes. This means 1,000 gold a minute. DKG, they're running away with this one.
And I want to say that Pertroni has damage, but he has 2 items up against the 3 items
he has
on
damage.
YK.
He has damage. It's just DKG
and
so accelerated.
They're so tanky, exactly. Accelerated is the perfect way to put it. They're just able to deal with the Ezreal so well. Win is still a vulnerable threat for them. But even after you take down that priority target, that's still vulnerable. Here we go. There to take you down as well. Pertroni commits his heal to try and escape. YK is there. He's back for revenge, and he's looking for the kill. Take down this Ezreal. TSM,
who's escaped?
Fall back to the turret that's not there anymore, so they don't have a means out. Mike is going to come in. Pertroni goes down. That's a move fall to write things off for TSM. DKG are walking into the base. They don't care about the turrets. They have a wave in the mid lane, and the Nexus is been exposed.
Going for the end here, Grandin.
It's the end. It's game 1 over to DKG as they close out the last few kills. Huiba's gonna get caught under the fountain. It's a nice knockout from Mikey, trying to at least pull something back. But in the end, DKG will close this off with the first round win.
I don't know what to tell you there. TSM, I think they looked really good from the start in this game. They found the solo kill in the bot lane. They identified tempo windows to make plays. But DKG, to me, this team, they are just on another level. And we saw Huiba saying in the interview, we didn't expect our games to be that hard yesterday. You remember what happened yesterday? They rolled SBTC. I think this is kind of more in line with what they were expecting. 13, 14 minutes, we march on your Nexus, we break your base open at 10 minutes. DKG, extremely impressed by that.
Even then, DKG, I want to say, have been able to show us a different flavor, not having to kind of rely on Huiba so exclusively. We're able to play to their own style. We saw a lot of stand-up performances. YK, despite being on this Garen, he kind of baited us. We thought he was going to the support role.
Maha was a bit broken there.
Despite that, was still able to have a lot of impact, was able to get a good lead against Sonyy as well. I think Sonyy had a great showing on the Renekton, even in very bad positions. Their team fighting still looked amazing. I want to see more of this TSM going into that second game.
Yeah, definitely. I love that they weren't shy to draft into the way that DKG want to play the game. Aggressive topside, we will skirmish you, and they force Huiba to have to dodge these fights in the early game. But when it goes to the mid game, when it goes to the late game, everyone on the side of DKG steps up, plays their part. And I want to see, you know what I want to see next game from TSM? I want to see carliTo play something with more engaged potential. I want to see him run the game a little bit more here. And I think that when TSM look their best, they function as a cohesive team fighting unit led by carliTo.
Let's break down what TSM need to do or need to change if they want to pull away this series from DKG, if at all. But the world is still right. The energy of the universe is still flowing the correct direction.
Well,
DKG take this first game.
Group, so.
Let's hand it over to the State Farm Analyst desk once again to break down this first game.
Thanks, guys. Welcome back. TJ, I gotta ask, what's going on here, man? Because TSM wasn't quite able to get in front here of KUN Gaming, and KUN take game number 1.
We're riding the waves of the universe or something. I'm not quite sure where Grandin was going. But the waves of the universe were pretty much how we called them, right? TSM has continued to demonstrate this incredibly, I think, surprising evolution at this event, which is they're showing up in the macro.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have these scary team fights, but they're also starting to make plays through side lanes.
Yeah, and we have a great example of that if we take a look at the replay. Early on in this game, TSM with the Yasuo pick, finding fights that they want, looking right here in the mid lane. They lost someone down on the bottom side of the map, but then they get a fight.
Yeah, so the huge push comes through in the bottom side and things go wrong for TSM, but they grab the Rift Herald, they throw it in mid, and they execute a really clean turret dive, knowing that because there's presence down bottom, they can get away with earning that gold lead.
Yeah, and Xscoundrel, here's the thing. Although that they got the fight, they get the towers, and they do get a massive amount of gold based off of that single play, the gold lead wasn't that big because of the side lane play of KUN Gaming.
Yeah, again, we saw the same man, Huiba, just coming through on the Fiora, taking that role of jungle into a side lane threat. I don't think there is any other team that does this as good as KUN Gaming. And I've got to be honest with you, they play side lanes better than any other team in this tournament. They were able to claw back so much global gold through plates in both Tier 1 in Baron lane and in Dragon lane, that by the time that we got to some of those mid-game team fights, we were on even footing. And I think once KUN Gaming had righted the ship, once they weren't essentially walking off the cliff like lemmings into TSM, they were actually very easily able to sort of take control of these team fights. It was very impressive stuff from them.
Yeah, it definitely was. And we have that one of those team fights where TSM trying to continue to find the engage, get a good one, but a great outplay here by KUN.
And the way this starts is super cool. They have this really interesting combination with the dive and a true shot that's supposed to just shut down the entire KUN backline. But Xscoundrel, as we see when we come in here, it just goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, I think we just missed the very start of that fight, but the key moment was we saw Varus use a stasis. As Lee Sin was trying to find the kick to set the Yasuo up, wasn't able to do that, and as soon as the stasis dropped, Moonfall was there. And by that time, we'd seen Huiba rotate from Baron lane towards the mid. Ezreal had overextended because they thought it was a 5v4. They were throwing everything in the kitchen sink at that DKG fight. And then, obviously, as Ezreal has no mobility left, Huiba comes in, finds the grand challenge, and then shuts him down very quickly. And once Ezreal's down, it's a little bit easier for KUN Gaming to clean that fight up. It was a lot, as they said on cast, lots of mini micro moments in that team fight that made it so excellent, but it just shows you the level of skill expression that KUN have in every moment of the game, both in macro and in micro.
Right, and you know, a lot of the accolades goes to Huiba, but again, Yo in that fight, Wind in that fight with the stasis, the timing there just felt so good against this TSM squad that wanted to fight and scrap. So TJ, you're coaching TSM now, game number 2. What are the adaptations that you make?
Well, first of all, if I'm coaching TSM, I give them a big high five. Because genuinely, their performance in that last game is impressive. This is not a match that they're supposed to win on paper, and they are performing very well, showing up in the side lanes, finding fights, delivering solid team fights against one of the best teams in the world. But if we have to make improvements, if we have to do some tuning, I would say play faster. Because when TSM did have an advantage, it was in those quick 1-2 punches that turned into team fights. And where things go wrong is in the slower, wider game, where you let KUN play through the side lanes, farm the jungle a little more efficiently, add up that gold lead. So if TSM can pick up the pace of play, focus in on those team fights, and force them more often, I think that's their best shot at victory.
Scoundrel, what do you want to see from this next game?
I really want to just reiterate TJ's point. I think TSM did themselves proud that game, even though it was a quick game and it very quickly snowballed towards DKG from about sort of 7-8 minutes onwards. I think TSM had a really excellent early game performance, and I think they need to build on that. What I want to see from TSM is more risk taking. When you get those, kills that they managed to pick up on the Varus in the mid lane, you need to be looking to convert them as much as possible. Commit resources to the side lanes, and I think that is the name of the game when it comes to DKG. Finding a way to make your Baron lane and your Dragon lane very safe. Either having someone that can clear waves easily or just being able to sustain in that lane versus whatever DKG throw at you. That is the way that you're going to shut down the early gold generation for DKG. So I agree with TJ wholeheartedly, though. I think TSM definitely did themselves proud considering we had relatively low expectations going into this match.
Right. I mean, they did get the win earlier over Tribe, so they are sitting in a good spot. You can see the players on your screen right there. Still feeling a little loose, stretching out a little bit. You like the, I guess, the air that they had going into this next matchup against DKG. And there's DKG. They're locked in, loaded. They're ready to go. So are our casters. So let's send it back on over to Grandin and Omo. Guys, take it away.
Thanks a bunch, D-Gon. We're taking a look at the second match between TSM and KUN Gaming, and I have to say, TSM came out of that first game swinging. X-Contra put up some nice points here, Omo, but I have to feel, make this a faster game, play faster. I have a big question mark beside this point because I have to say, this is what, a 14-minute game?
Yes.
Are we looking for a 9-minute one? Is that what's happening? We had the longest game of the Horizon Cup today. Are we also looking for the fastest?
Look, I'm telling you right now, any game that KUN plays in could potentially be the quickest game of the entire tournament just by the nature of how they play. They're so fast, they're so explosive, and don't forget, they are so good as well. Pick up the Rift Herald, and what do we say? Huiba's gonna take a couple of turrets. How many did he take? He took 3 turrets! As many turrets as there are to take in a lane, he took them all.
But I love the points that they also brought up about TSM having to play for a more risk-taking style. While they had an excellent early game,
maybe not more risk-taking, but something that allows them to pull the trigger more easily and more decisively.
Right, and that's going to come down to carliTo, your player to watch, right? He's the guy that needs to be engaged. We saw them play Rakan previously. Now with this Braum, while it did seem like they had a similar look, it wasn't quite the same.
It wasn't carliTo pulling the trigger, it wasn't him calling the shots. All you have as engaged in that game was you had the Lee Sin kick, Renekton flash stun, that's about it. And that leaves you with very few options. We need to see carliTo be able to pull something out of his bag of tricks. Now, we can expect Galio to be banned, so maybe set up for a Rakan. Maybe that's the play here.
I love how composed TSM are at this point. They're playing with this in mind, that they still could just take the next 2 games, like what they did against Trump.
Yeah, they have to keep that in mind. You know, it's a different caliber of opponent, but they did reverse sweep yesterday. Who's to say they can't do it again today? I mean, I am saying it, but...
Same bans from KUN Gaming going into this second match. It's still going to be the Senna, the Nunu, the Galio. Those things are going to remain constant. TSM change things up a little bit. They're going to ban away to Fiora this time around, but again, still holding on to the Ziggs and Camille ban.
You know what they say, right? Curiosity killed the cat. That TSM, they're saying, how bad can Fiora really be? Let's leave it up. Next game, nope, ban it, get rid of it.
But it doesn't answer the problem because now Riven comes through and we've seen
that's the problem.
What
you
a
have
problem
to
it
pick
is.
your poison. There's too many things to ban. Something's gonna get through. You have to just find an answer. What's the answer to this Riven pick? We saw in the last game, TF, although he didn't manage to win, he played it to a moderate degree of success in the jungle. YK can play it, Huiba can play it, maybe even Yo can play it. We'll have to see.
But TSM are willing to play for strategies that are a little bit more unconventional stuff that isn't necessarily played by a lot of these Eastern teams. TSM, they've been a big proprietor of that setup pickup, and now with that banned away, I'm curious if they have anything left in the tank, or this is them running on fumes.
I mean, it's hard to say, right? They might have strategies prepared, they might have a couple of answers, but it's all about gameplay caliber. KUN, I keep saying this, they might be the best team here. With that in mind, whatever your answers are, even though they might work against another team, they just might not work against Dakun. And that's something TSM have to keep in mind as well. Don't let a loss here, don't let even getting beat up here dissuade you from these picks that work from you. But we're looking too far ahead. Let's focus on this game. Main thing to keep in mind, I want to see carliTo on Engage. Even this Gragas would be acceptable.
DKG, on the other hand, are going to double back
Hey, if
what
it
we
ain't
saw
broke.
from them before.
If it ain't broke, right?
If it ain't broke. And not necessarily having to show too many of their cards as well.
Exactly. I think that's something very important to keep in mind. Now, I wouldn't say they were tested by SBTC yesterday, but they were forced to review some picks. And I think the Jax was a big one. And I think that's something they would have been happy to hide to playoffs if they could have.
Absolutely.
SBTC, yeah, they were forced to show their hand in game 1 against what was potentially a top team in their group. Now, DKG, I think they're happy, sticking with what works, not revealing a thing. And TSM, well, it looks like they're going to change things up quite a lot here. We're going to see a last pick 80 and a Lulu pickup. You know what this tells me?
What does this tell
You're
you,
looking
Omo?
to set up for the Vayne, but you don't want to play Vayne into Varus. So what else? What else? Maybe a Jinx? But that doesn't look good against the dive that DKG have. So what's the pick here? It has to be a Vayne. But you lose lane. I couldn't tell you.
It
wouldn't
is
like
problematic
TSM
because
right
now if they are trying to set up for the Vayne, you're going to see stuff like that Nami show up and it's going to be disastrous.
Okay, it's a bit of a reach here. Yasuo Gragas bot lane, Lulu mid. I don't know.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. There's so many things still left unanswered. TSM could pivot out into any direction they want to try and go for at this point. If it does mean that Yasuo, which has been seeing a lot of play, which has been seeing a lot of regional play.
Okay.
There we go. That's that Varus Nami, a very powerful matchup against a lot of laners, especially
Cannot
Pat
pick
Lulu.
Vayne. You 100% cannot pick Vayne here. We saw what happened yesterday. The one game, the Team Secret, the one game that SEA won was with this Varus Nami against a Vayne Lulu. So Vayne is off the table. What is your answer here for TSM? Real quick as well. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. TSM, it's gonna be a tough order. It's gonna be a tough call.
It is going to be a tough call. That Vayne might have seen its fair share of success in the regional leagues.
Yeah.
But now we're in the big stage. We're in Suntech Convention Center. As Horizon Cup goes underway, I just feel like this Jax, this Varus, this Nami, everything on Dakun Gaming, I don't think I could state enough how easy it is to deal with this Vayne.
Yeah, I mean, we'll break this down a little bit more in game when we have the visuals to go along with it. But I like the idea here from TSM. I just think that the execution could, they could do better.
But this is a problem for TSM as well, because now carliTo is no longer going to have that engaged support.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
on support duty, he's on the Lulu. How does this change things?
Well, I mean, he's not going to be able to engage. And once again, the burden of engage, it's going to come from Mike, Tetis, and Sonyy. This three-man unit really needs to step up big. They need to make space for Pertroni and carliTo to scale. We'll touch on that a little bit more in game. But I'm hyped to see Huiba back on this Jax.
Had an amazing game
Amazing,
up against Kiro, zoning him out, being able to also find a triple kill for himself in the Dragon Pit.
Yes.
While all of that was happening, I don't know how one man can single-handedly kill 3 people while zoning out a 4th.
Power.
No one man should have all this power indeed. And just like that song, this is aged pretty well. Huiba is designed to perform just right up to our expectations. Let's see how this one's going to play out.
Yeah, I think Huiba definitely performing beyond our expectations, even I might say. We came into this saying TF might be the
Like you
best
have
jungler here.
low expectations for Huiba.
I had
Some
very
high.
but that's the thing. I had extremely high expectations of Huiba, and he's surpassing them all. I think he came in here, he's popping off. He's showing that he is making a very real case to be the best player in the whole world.
So now if it's not carliTo, if he's not the primary playmaker, he's not the engaged that we need to see, who on TSM do we watch out for then?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. I
Is
think
it this Lee Sin? Is it the Lee Sin that was playmaking that first game?
They drafted themselves into the corner. That's the problem that I see here, right? We'll touch on that a little bit more because I want the visual representations. I want to describe it to you guys while you see Vayne Lulu get pummeled under their towel by Varus Nami yet again. We need to see it to really understand how brutal that is. But I think TSM, game 1, I like their draft. I think they could have made a couple of changes, but still the idea was there. Game 2, it feels like desperation to me.
Let's see what TSM has in store for us this game. With this Vayne Lulu, they're looking to play for that hyper carry, something similar to what we saw from the Senna in their matchup against Tri Gaming, but Dakun Gaming not willing to let up at all. They said, we are here to play, and what isn't broke, we don't have to fix. They're running it back for game number 2.
Fiora's banned, but Jackson functions the same way. Okay, this is what they're gonna do. Okay, It makes sense now. Now let's break this down. This is the idea that TSM had in mind. Now Gragas is a champion which functions very well in a 1v2 scenario. Why is that? He has built-in sustain on his passive and he has the barrels to farm away and far away. He can dash away if trouble ever comes his way. So they'll put this 1v2 situation in mid. Vayne can farm for free, he gets control both sides of the map because you have a 2v1 in mid lane. And Diana hates being in this scenario. She hates being not able to farm in melee. She has to farm in range. She's gonna get zoned out. It's a good play here for TSM, but now I need to see DKG respond to this.
And trust TSM to be the team to pull out these kind of strategies to make these things work. And early on up against KUN Gaming, I just feel like they have so much still left available to them that they are not concerned about this.
Exactly, and we do see KAY-TO come back in here. I don't think he's in any trouble. There's not going to be a KUN Gam available for Pertroni. Now the thing is, even though they swap it back, even though the lane matchup is still going to be good for the Varus now, the problem is, mid lane is a short lane. You have less space to work with if you want to poke them out, if you want to zone them out, if you want to pressure them with the turret.
And susceptible to ganks from multiple sides.
Exactly, yeah. But still they're doing pretty well. So I think it's not a bad start from DKG's bottom lane. They lost a minute or two. I think they'll be a bit frustrated. We lost a minute of pummeling you onto the turret, but it's fine. We're back now.
And just looking to really get into that state of the game for TSM to be able to tap damage on Pertroni. The Ezreal wasn't the look they wanted to try and go for. Yeah. They need a bit of a change. This Vayne might be what they want, but at the same time, it's going to be difficult to get to that point. So up to win now. He's gone to base very quickly to pick up some new items.
Oh. Bit of a botched stun there from YK, but it's fine because he just wants to reset. Emo is here to help him do so. Now, I want to touch a little bit on this Vayne pick, right? Now, people might think Vayne and Ezra are pretty different champions because of the way they function. One wants to auto, one wants to spell. They're actually very similar in Wild Rift. Why is that? Because both of these champions are hyper carries. You sacrifice your laning phase. You don't have a laning phase to try to carry your business.
Right, that's true. So not having a laning phase seems like something that TSM have recognized and are trying to resolve by bringing Pertroni into the mid lane.
Like desperation, right? It just seems to me that we're not confident in taking these laning fights against you, and we just want to scale. We just want one miracle team fight, and just give us a win, please.
Interestingly enough, so far, we have been seeing a much slower tempo game. And so while that early aggression that Excandro and TJ were hoping to see hasn't quite come to fruition, this is a TSM that looks calm, collected. I like this from this team.
I don't like it. I like to see them go a bit chaotic, send some chaotic energy in the game, get fights going.
That's never quite winning with you, Omo. If they play too slow, you say they're boring. If they play too fast, you say they're running it down.
I mean, there's a way to win. Just win the whole championship. I'll say you're a good team.
Okay. Results-based analysis.
Well,
out here for the casting
this game is this mid lane play has really slowed down the pace of the game a lot. Because when you're stuck on a side lane, what we do see is you will stack a wave, you crash the wave, and you dive on that wave. You can't do that on a mid lane, and that's keeping Pertroni and carliTo safe. They're getting poked out a little bit, but that's okay. With Pertroni's farm, he's the richest person in the game right now.
So what happens once Rift Talent's available? We do see a little bit of pressure onto Mike. He's probably going to get away. That Aqua Prison's not going to hold him in place for much longer.
Oh, nice little bit of damage. Huiba with the Sheen drop.
It's actually going to force Tetis to respect this a little bit more, despite the fact that they were there first. DKG say, we call dibs, we're getting this Rift Herald and taking it away from you. Here we go. TSM start the engage. Tetis with a nice kick isolates the single target and take down YK. Tidal Wave won't find much more presence. Yo's joining in now, but he's been knocked back by the Condemned. Nice lockdown to take down Pertroni. That's that early game. Vayne, no damage, no health. He jumps back in, but Huiba secures it with the smite. Tetis still no kick available. And Mikey, he's tanking for Gragas, but not tanking this early game.
It's doomed. It's all over. Credit. It looked so good. Yet again, it's the same story as last game. It looked so good for TSM until it wasn't. And this is exactly what happens here. Yet again, look at the setup here. I love the decisiveness with Sonyy and Tetris. That's what we talked about. I want to see TSM goaling. Go, go, go. Take the team fight. Don't be afraid. He did it. He did well. And what happens? Vayne's not a champion right now. Just look at Varus.
So mechanically beautiful.
Yeah, it looked really good. It was good. But look at the damage. Vayne does not offer a single time. One piercing arrow takes out half the health box. It's nothing here. It's a bit of a rough game at this stage of the game. Just sucks for TSM. No, it's just sad, right? Because they play well. They are playing well. It's just the draft is not allowing them to succeed because either they're scared, they're desperate. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe Scream result has screwed them.
And also the fact that Huiba got that Rift Herald, right? He was in a similar position on that VR before, but now with the Jax especially, so I feel like he's just going to get such a good time in the side lane, do whatever he wants. If they get this kill onto Sonyy, it's doomed. Like, he's just going to run down the Dragon lane.
Yeah, and it's very likely that that's going to happen as well, right? It's what we saw in the last game, and they're going to trade sides.
Tetis here with the response. YK gets the initial stun off, a lot of damage back over onto Tetis. He's coming in clutch. The rest of TSM fully supporting this endeavor, but only one kill to be found here.
Yeah, and look at this. Rift Herald has not been popped. You get the kill as TSM, but the response from DKG, they just stop you from pushing. You are not able to get a single turret. You invest everything, and you get a kill. What did DKG get? A turret for free? And they still have the Rift Herald. They didn't even need to use it, Grandin.
Let's take a look back on how this was set up. Initially, a little bit of a miscommunication. Both ultimates expended at the same time, and that caused Son away from this. Thankfully, carliTo's in here to save his jungler.
He got bounced 3 times.
That could have been much worse.
Could have been much worse indeed. I completely agree with you there. I mean, there is one thing Ruby can do very well in the context of answering DKG's team comp, and that is Polymorph is really broken against Riven, Diana, and Jax. In addition to that, Wild Growth is also really good against Jax and Diana. So those 2 factors make the Lulu a good pick. The problem is, paired with Vayne, she can't do much.
Last game, just doing such a great job of rotating around the map. They've broken open the Dragon lane turret, they've broken open the Baron lane turret, mid lane turret broken open as well. All the auto tier turrets gone.
Quick side note, let's just segue away really quickly. What I would have liked to see from TSM here, if they were planning for this draft again, would be an Olaf. I think that solves a lot of their problems. Olaf does amazing into all 3 of DKG's champions to the top side. It runs down Varus and Nami as well. And I think an Olaf pick here could have changed the game for TSM. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Let's see how much this matters. Nice flash away from Mike. Huiba won't be able to catch up with his own flash. Head is coming in now. This Rift Herald is going to find them a little bit more pressure, but the rest of DKG won't be here as TSM take it down.
Yeah, no, well, TSM took down the Rift Herald. They saved their tier 2 turret, and I think that was a bit ambitious there for DKG. They didn't secure Prior, they didn't secure the kill. They tried to force it too hard, and they wasted the Rift Herald.
But TSM still on their fighting stance. They're still on their feet, looking to try and make a play to turn things around. Sony's going to get caught out. Loses a lot of health quickly, but Tetis comes in, buys enough time, and now it's DKG. They're on the run because you watch out Pertroni. He's picked up the Wild Growth. He's coming in here with enough damage to pose a threat, but Huiba doing a fantastic job. Talk about zoning, talk about Huiba. He is textbook perfection in the way he plays out these fights. Pertroni finds no impact. DKG with 3.
Granted, it's just so heartbreaking for TSM because they start things off well every single time. Every fight, every early game, TSM looks good. Now, when you get into the mid game, when you get into the fight, in this X-ray play, take a look at how well it started. It looked good, but TSM returned it around with some good mechanics. The problem is, he stacked the flash, he stacked the Wild Growth. Pertroni wants more, he smells blood. You have to remember, you're playing what is potentially the best team in the world. You cannot make a misstep, get gets too ambitious, he gets punished. Once again, DKG gives them an inch, and they take not just a mile, I don't know, they take like 20 miles or something like that.
They take 3 turrets.
They take 3 turrets.
Huiba's going to get a nice pick off on the Tetis there. A little bit of backup from Mike, but I don't think there's much to be found there. DKG will just be content.
Call him Jeff Bezos right now.
He's rich, he's 5 digits. He's 5 figures.
This is like the gap between a billionaire and a millionaire, you know, something along those lines. It's just insane. Huiba on his Jax. I don't know what to tell you here, Grandin. He's gonna run the game. He already is running the game.
Absolutely.
100% kill participation on a Jax jungle that wants to farm.
We've seen a lot of different looks from these teams, right? Teams that like to play around the Baron lane, teams that like to play around the mid lane. Junglers a little bit less love, but with Huiba, the way he's been playing it out, I think we could very well start to see a move towards this jungle focus.
He's an innovator for sure. I think he might even be the gender of this jungle style that we see teams play very heavily around here. Now we'll have to see how teams adapt as the tournament progresses, as playoffs approaches. We're still a bit far off, but I would like to see more teams play around.
And this in our preparation, we were discussing Huiba, you were mentioning that this is not his preferred playstyle. This is something that he's brought in new for the Horizon Cup, but his preferred playstyle is to deny the enemy jungler and not let him do anything at all.
Well, he did show that, right? He did show that on the Graves yesterday. That's something he's more than capable of doing. It's just, why do I need to come counter jungle? I can get 6 items in one jungle, right? So I think he's more than capable of doing both. Get you a jungler that can do it all, do it both, and that's Huiba. I mean, he's good.
Looking for a pick off, maybe trying to take down YK.
Yeah,
he has been the target of focus for TSM time and time again, but DKG this time around will come up ahead.
Get you a partner like Huiba who takes care of your every need, who carries you when you're down. I mean, what's there to really say? You try to dive YK, Huiba's waiting in the wings. You can't look away from this guy, you can't take your eyes off him. He's my MVP so far for the 2 days that we've seen. He's amazing.
Definitely one of the discussion pieces for best player in this competition, one of the MVPs for the competition.
Oh, I don't think there's any discussion to be had. From what we've seen so far, there's no discussion to be had.
Let's see if DKG can hold on to their mental.
Yeah.
And maybe start pushing for the title of the best team in the world. TSM are going to be another step in their way, but TSM, they are also looking to turn things around.
Yeah, I mean, what can they really do right now?
Team fight, that's what they're known for, that's what they have to try and aim for. Looking to try and displace the waves, that Rift Herald is going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, the Rift Herald's coming in, and we saw what happened with the last one.
If that pickoff caught them, they might have just seen DKG push in to end the game. When's going to get caught off, TSM might just have a team fight entry and go back in it. Nice pick for Tetis, and suddenly things don't look so straightforward, not so clear cut. But Yo's going to buy so much time, take down a majority of the backline of TSM, put them so low. Pertroni's coming in now. This Exhaust is going to reduce a lot of his damage. But YK joining into the fight means TSM have to get back to base.
Brandon Pertroni is so aggressive. How does he walk around like that? This man, he runs into 3 people. He dashes, he tumbles into a ribbon, and he just heals and flashes and gets out. He says, I'm good.
Even as this fight starts, it starts with Pertroni coming in here, looking to take down Yo, finding a couple of auto attacks.
Great condemn.
And getting the condemn on the Huiba sets up for his team. They were able to buy for enough time. Sony's just a little bit too unfortunate there. Gets over the wall, but still dies again.
Yeah, look at this here from Sony. I mean, this is just amazing, right? He couples in, heals and flashes, and gets out of all the members of DKG. The fight don't stop.
TSM comes back in. They're contesting for this blue buff. They say, this is our jungle. Hand it back over to us. Pertroni looking for the catch on the YK. But the tidal wave's going to force them back, route them once again.
Look, Brandon, 5 members there to try to kill Huiba, and he just jumps out to safety.
And Huiba gets out. The TSM have committed 4 ultimates, summoner spells on top of that, as this Baron spawns.
Yeah, imagine if he had a real weapon.
Alright. I don't know what to do with you anymore. I don't even know if people get that reference.
I'm sure they do, right? I'm sure Jack says it all the time still. It's so annoying, but it really gets the message across.
Absolutely. Baron available for DKG is also a message, I think.
Do you remember in the last series when we were talking about Rattel on Camille and how he had 3 items, he can't die anymore, things along those lines?
Sure.
Let's look at Huiba. He's got 4 items on an even earlier timer. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely, will never die anymore.
Absolutely will never die, and he has 2 damage items on top of that. You know what? He even says, I don't need a Zhonya's. You know what I need? I need more access to your backline. I just want to kill you guys. I'm getting a proto belt.
Does this start to mean that Group A is going to be about DKG, about KUN Gaming's dominance over this one?
It's not just that, right? Who else did we see that's dominating? Roster Y today. I want to look towards this matchup, and I want to say that the winner of that matchup might win the whole thing.
Alright, but let's not get ahead of ourselves because TSM still have a fighting chance. That last grab hit damage, Yo looking for the engaging, barely clips it down Sony. Pulls the Renekton back into his seat. DKG find the first pick off. That's emboldened them. They're looking for a little bit more, looking to chase them down, but TSM back off, and so DKG go for the Baron instead.
Yeah, and that's a bit of the Unero syndrome right there, where you get offered up as a sacrificial lamb. Your team has to make it out alive. It's that scene in the movie where you say, go on.
No Baron.
Yeah, no Baron. I
they
mean,
don't want it.
I think at this point they can take anything.
Huiba with his 4 items is looking to make a statement, making a statement piece. TSM, we'll see Tetis fall. He gets the kickoff. But where's he supposed to go?
No, they messed up. Tetis wanted to kick Huiba into his team, but Pertroni wanted to condemn him against the wall. Not on the same page means they end up kicking Huiba away, and Tetis pays with his life. They get the Baron, and I mean, it looks to me like it's lights out for TSM here.
Let's see what happens here. I didn't quite catch that. Let's actually see if he does end up using that condemn as well as
So
the
how
kick.
this happens, he goes to flash behind him, Zam knocks him away, and then he ends up kicking him away. So a bit of a bouncy castle,
Right.
not in the right direction.
Not in the right way, not in a good way.
Not in a good way,
If it
yeah.
was just half a second after, could have seen a difference. But that's Baron gone while we're taking a look at that replay. DKG are closing this one out in such good fashion as well. TSM gave us a good showing that first game, but against DKG's full force, it just doesn't seem like there's much to be said.
Yeah, and I want to drive home the point right now that Vayne as a champion is just too niche, too much time. And here we go.
Yobo's trigger, he's gone under the Nexus. He doesn't care about anything else. TSM, they're making a statement piece. They're using your name to win this game out. A little bit more damage. Pertroni comes online looking for the auto attacks. The polymorph will stop Huiba, but stop it for how long? He's going to reposition and TSM hold on for one more fight.
Honestly, despite the fact that I just criticized them if they were playing against any other team, not called KUN Gaming, this Vayne Lulu combo might have taken over by now. I think Pertroni is playing extremely well. I think carliTo is playing really well as well with the buffs and with the wild throw from the pollen loss. I think he's doing his job for sure. And I think that the way that Pertroni has been navigating these team fights has been very impressive. His timings, his dodging of spells, his knowing of when he can go in and when he has to pull back out. I think it's brilliant from him. But the problem is DKG, Huiba, the rest of them all, they're just too good. Rambo Best is off of Huiba, he's never gonna die.
They get a catch off, taking down Mike first. He's going to lose a good amount of health as well. Pertroni's come in, but has been caught out by the corrupting chains. And Stasis will only buy you time. But there's not enough gold in the world to keep you safe for KUN Gaming as they take down the Nexus 2-0 in this series.
Amazing performance coming in from KUN Gaming, but it's not anything new. They looked this good yesterday as well. They showed off pretty much the same picks. I think what I want to drive home is that TSM, they looked pretty good in this set.
Absolutely. They were able to show us a level of play that seems comparable with the rest of Group A.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that match against Tribe was not a fluke.
Of course, it was definitely not a fluke. Anyone that tells you that is on copium right now. I mean, the thing I like that we're seeing from the side of carliTo and the rest of TSM is it's a different look from what we saw from them yesterday. They were extremely reliant. I mean, look at the winners on your screen right now. I think earlier on, I want to touch on this a little bit as well. Huiba, he was saying in the video, he starts to smell success. He gets a bit nervous because he feels like we can win it all. We want to win it all. And the two performances that they put on here today are definitely indicative of that.
2-0 and 2 series. This also puts them 2-0 in Group A.
It's not just about the scoreline. What I want to see from KUN Gaming, I want to see the match timing so far. I want to see how long they've had to play. Because I feel like they played 4 games so far, but they barely had to play an hour of Wild Rift on stage.
Well, when you put it that way,
Yeah.
it just seems like you mentioned, any game with KUN Gaming involved could just be the fastest game of Wild Rift and Horizon Cup.
It's honestly amazing to see, right? But back to the point about TSM. I mean, what can we say about KUN that hasn't been said already? Amazing team, led by Huiba, amazing player. I want to touch on TSM. I think that a new change of pace here for them, a new style that they're bringing out, it bodes well for them. This is a team that, I mean, it breaks my heart to say it because I was cheering for SBTC. This is a team that has the potential to make it out of groups.
Not afraid to play compositions and strategies a little bit different from the norm. TSM have definitely given us a treat here today in their match against DKG.
Yeah, definitely. I think they had some really good moments, and I like the aggressiveness that we see. Despite a different draft, this time around, the trigger is in the hand of your top side, not in carliTo. And I think they definitely performed the way they were expected to. They did their jobs, they did well. It's just they faltered at the finish line numerous times, and against a team like KUN, who can blame them?
Does this mean that we're starting to see the rise of Pertroni? I feel like his 2 performances, the Ezra in the first game,
Ezra was meh.
it was difficult because there were a lot of tanks in his way. He couldn't really get much done. But on this Vayne, felt like he was a lot more comfortable. He was able to get more done. It was towards the end of the game, like you mentioned, if there was any team that was not called KUN Gaming, that could have been a chance that took that game away.
Definitely possible. And I am honestly very impressed with TSM. Of course I'm impressed with KUN Gaming. I'm off from the cast after this, and I'm going to go start the KUN Gaming fan club.
Sure.
But the one I want to talk about, TSM, keep your eyes on them. I feel like this team can surprise.
Absolutely. We're looking for the rise of this team and see what they can bring in store for us. But this also means that we have to take a close look back towards guys like Tri Gaming, like SBTZ Esports, who are starting things off on the back foot, who are needing to climb back up in the last 3 days of competition, the group stage.
It's a group of death for a reason, Grandin. I mean, we might honestly be seeing two of the best teams in the world in the form of DKG and KT, and we have other teams fighting to get out of group as well. NA #1 seed, SCA #1 seed, TSM, who've looked amazing. It's just a lot on the line here.
Well, to break this one down and give us more insight on what's happened in this set and how TSM and KUN Gaming have been playing, we're going to toss it back over to the State Farm Analyst Desk to give us their thoughts.
Thank you, Brandon and Omo, and it's KUN Gaming. Still have yet to drop a game, another 2-0. It was clean, it was methodical, and again, just over the whole series, really hyping up your point, Scoundrel, of it's the side lane gold manipulation that they're able to get. Next thing, you know, all of a sudden it's close, and then all of a sudden, whoa, they're 13,000 gold down, but they're only 4 kills up.
Yeah, you actually mentioned it right there. You don't know that KUN Gaming get that far ahead until you really take a look at exactly what they've done on the map to get there. And Huiba himself, absolute man of the moment again. Jax, a pick that not many people consider particularly competitive, but I think DKG and Huiba single-handedly changing the perception here. Got to give it to TSM, though. Again, the early game, the ideas were there. They were willing to fight DKG, but I think just right here, this Moonfall really shut everything down. They managed to pick up that Rift Herald, and then once again, DKG's a very heavy reliance on the Rift Herald to help them accelerate those side lanes, pay dividends for them. I don't even think TSM picked up a single tower this game. The wave manipulation, the side lane wave kind of like control was so good from KUN Gaming all the way through this series. TSM never really got a chance to get their hand into that global gold pot, TJ.
Yeah, and I think it goes across multiple layers of the game. This play is a highlight of the other thing that happened, which is Pertroni was playing really well. TSM had this late game win condition. 3-item Vayne comes online, shreds entire teams. We've seen it before. It's a team secret favorite strat. But in this game, we got to the late game. The Vayne came online, T-Con, doing massive damage, and never got to properly teamfight. Because of a combination of really good focus, we had Huiba every single team fight diving in, burning down that Vayne, stunning that Vayne, and then you also have the ability of KUN to disengage from those fights. The second it starts going sideways, they're able to cut their losses even from a massive gold lead and recognize when it serves them better to play for different map angles.
Right, and you could see how TSM were at least thinking about the game, right? With the lane swap of Vayne going into the mid lane, so you're not worried about getting dove under tower without letting things go crazy and out of control. It's a little bit safer for the Vayne to scale. And before we saw that first Rift Herald fight, Vayne was actually the most fed player in the game.
Yeah, it was a really good game from Pertroni. He's been one of the key carries over on the TSM side, certainly one of the best performers, did very well in the Ezreal last game as well. But it just doesn't matter when you're playing against a team that can read your game plan so well. And yes, they make that mid swap. Guess who follows? It's Varus. That Vayne's not getting an easy farm, constantly held at arm's length, constantly harassed in the late game team fights. And TSM play well. They should be very proud of their performance. But KUN Gaming have demonstrated why I think they are the favorites in this tournament now. I think they are the team to beat globally.
Yeah, well, let's look back at a moment from KUN Gaming's game #1 for our Cisco every second counts play of the game. Right here in the fight, we're like, oh, here comes TSM with the combination, and then Stasis, and here comes the Moonfall on the Diana. A quick second decision there. Very, very huge play. Every second counts by Cisco play of the game. Man, that was great.
Yeah, Yo goes above and beyond there to turn the fight in a millisecond, not even a second. He manages to land a massive Moonfall that completely counters the dive and ensures that on the other side of the stasis, his AD carry, Wind, is going to be safe.
Yeah, and we have one more breakdown for you. It's the KUN Gaming selfie breakdown because, you know, their selfie game is, they should probably be working on that one a little bit because they're getting all these wins. What? Hands in the face? What's going on here?
Oh, no.
It's got to break this down for me.
A 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. Covering the face of one of your players with the hands. Needs to work on the selfie game, I think.
He's getting ganked, Scoundrel. The hands coming in from the side lane, interrupting the middle of the photo.
Scoundrel, I think you're grading it a little nice there, but 6 out of 10 for Scoundrel. And
Give it a 3.
a 3, okay.
A 3, half credit.
I'll put it in the middle of 4 because we got to see 4 faces in that selfie. So hopefully they'll be able to level it up, and I'm sure they're going to get a couple more wins and opportunities to do so. Now, as we go to break, let's hear from Ebro Gaming's Teeks ahead of their upcoming match against Team Secret. That series is coming up next. Stay tuned.
Realmente creo que salimos medio desconcertados, no dando lo mejor de nosotros. También nos afectó un poco un problema que tuvimos con el draft. Nada, Teamcases son muy buenos, el resto de equipos también. Vamos a dar todo para remontar la situación. Realmente creo que el mental es nuestro fuerte, lo que nos hace ganar los partidos y no nos afectó en nada perder. La verdad.
If you're this far, like they love it, though. They love it.
Fue hermoso, la verdad fue hermoso y muy linda experiencia. Que confíen en nosotros, que vamos a dar todo para revertir la situación y que confíen. No es Ibros y no se sufre. Sí creo que es uno de los equipos más fuertes, pero vamos a dar todo y vamos a salir a ganar, como siempre.
Would you ride with me? Handshake, one of a kind, homie. I be trying to vibe on the wave. I'm a big, mean vibe on the wave. Look.
It's invisible, but it's always with you. It's the defender of your decisions, the bodyguard of your buffs, the guardian of your greatness on the Rift. It's the Cisco Network, powering every epic moment at the Horizon Cup, so you can go wild on the Rift.
I woke up to the morning sky first. Baby blue, just like we rehearsed.